Hi, my name is Adrian Sordi, and I'm the startup studio manager of Bianca, Florence. Many of the great companies today were startup yesterday, and many of the great companies of tomorrow are startups today. Most of all, people tend to forget that many of these companies, many of the startups today and yesterday were accelerated in dedicated, experienced, and efficient environments. And I would like you to to put a little bit of attention on experienced and efficient. Basically, Bianca was born in 2011 out of the consideration that the companies that have grown faster in the last 5 years were companies that were supported by environments that put a lot of efforts on the execution rather than the product. I heard before from the director of the Minerva program that copying is good, and it is true. It is very important to copy, and in business, and because most of the times the competitive advantage is not in the product, it's on the execution. So when we look at other companies that have similar products far away from us, and we learn from that, and we apply it here, and we do it faster, and we do it better, we win. If we only look at the product's competitive advantage, there will be only one company per segment, only one company per market. But it's not true. We have hundreds of companies selling the same products. And the winner is usually the one who sells best, who executes better, who's that operational efficiency inside the company that allows it to be the winner. So, given that consideration to execution, and considering companies that like Lazada, Foodpanda, Lamudi are companies that were supported by acceleration programs that put a lot of efforts on the execution side, we decided to create Bianca as a startup studio. So Bianca is not an acceleration program under the classic terms of the acceleration program, but it's a machine. It's a machine where the methodology is applied to the company creation, where phases of the company creation are standardized, are limited, and where all the hassle that is not necessary to the creation of a company is minimized, so that the founders can concentrate on the product testing, on the product development, and we take care of the execution, and we help them taking care of themselves in the execution. Because what we do is not supporting the companies, not accelerating the companies. We decided to build the companies. Of course, that implies that we cannot build any company. We can only build the companies where we can give any kind of benefit, any kind of practical benefit. And that's because, the founders behind Bianca had a very peculiar experience with Dada. Dada was a digital company offering digital services to B2B digital services, B2C digital services. They were very famous in Italy in the 90s. They went public at the end of the 90s. They used to sell also ringtones to customers. They became prominent in the Italian market and famous because of that service. But that implied that when the founders decided to create Bianca, they could really build companies where their experience was valued and could have been valued. And of course, we put a lot of attention on global and scalable business models, because that's the beginning, of course. As I said, we're a startup studio, so we're a machine. We have our processes. Everything is kind of standardized, and we put a lot of efforts on sharing the skills. So what we do is accepting companies that we can only help, and of course, putting the right people together, building the companies, and putting a lot of efforts on finding synergies between companies. So companies that have similarities in terms of team's background, they have similarities in terms of business models, they have to talk to each other. They're encouraged to talk to each other. Sometimes they're forced to talk to each other. If we look at the acceleration program nowadays everywhere, it's always the same. So we go from business model to product development to testing to support on funding research to maturity. That's everywhere. That's the acceleration program as it is in the definition of the acceleration program. So we had it for a long time. We had it since the beginning. It lasts from 3 to up to 9 months. We're changing that. We're standardizing duration as well. We're going forwards to have 4 months of duration. But this is not peculiar. So this is not what makes us unique or makes the company builders unique. So it's how you do it. So of course, we built nice co-working spaces. We had our tables, we have our events scheduled on a monthly basis. But we started by centralizing some departments that are not necessary for a startup, which can be at the beginning, which can be UX, UI, sometimes business development, and HR. So that's on us. We do it. We pay for it. We support it ourselves with our means. We put people into it. And companies don't have to worry about it. We do it for them. That's how we define ourselves as startup studio, because these departments are centralized. Then we later expanded to advertising and social technology. So we do marketing for our companies. Of course, that means that we have our own marketing departments together with the HR departments, together with the UX, UI departments, which are Nana Bianca teams. And companies joining our programs can rely on them on a daily basis. Later on, we're going to expand this company building to other departments. These will be mainly business development and operations, so that we can also minimize the hassle related to that side of business building. But of course, standardization doesn't work cross-sectionally. We cannot do it on any kind of business. We can only do it to the businesses that we decide that we want to build. So by capitalizing on the experience of the founders, we decide to concentrate only on mobile, advertising tech, and e-commerce. These are the three sectors that we focus on. So if we focus only on these three sectors, we can standardize the process of company creation. Otherwise, if we decide to go only for food delivery or social networks or anything really, we cannot really standardize. I mean, we can have some departments that are centralized like HR, but we don't really build any experience on HR if we don't do it routinely for always the same kind of company. So mobile, advertising tech, and e-commerce are the sectors that we focus on. As of now, we have 25 companies, more or less. I'm not allowed to give specifics too much, but I would say we're well above 95% survival rate, more or less. But they're very young. We have a lot of people working now. Nana Bianca team is very small. I would say less than 10 people now. We're obviously going to expand that. But if we take into consideration all the startups that are now here in Nana Bianca headquarters, we have over 200 people. And again, yeah, a few women, that's the problem. It's a problem. And that's one, probably it's going to be the next mission for us, to put it to 50-50. Obviously, it takes a village. We cannot only standardize the process. It sounds easy, but we don't come from the Silicon Valley. Tuscany is not the Silicon Valley. Italy is not the Silicon Valley. In Europe, there are very few places that can compare to Silicon Valley. So we have to build the ecosystems. We have to talk to the governments. We have to create associations that create, and I say create, don't just find associations that can help us. Sometimes we have to build it ourselves. We created relationships with the pre-seed funds to support the companies in the pre-seed stage. And of course, we talk on a daily basis with the VC funds in Milan to support our portfolio companies. The next step is to also centralize that. So we're talking about building our own VC fund, so that the machine can be completed in terms of having some departments that are centralized, from HR to operations to business development to marketing, and then having our own financing rounds, so that we can completely be independent from the fact that the ecosystem is not the Silicon Valley. And in the meantime, by being independent, also creating that kind of ecosystem, because there are many spillovers that can affect the territory that we operate in. We also create a crowdfunding platform, Siamo Soci. That's a very nice project. And yeah, that's it. So how does it work? With the company building approach, we also have the acceleration program, in the sense that there are entrepreneurs applying for the project, applying for the program by giving their own projects. So they have their own ideas. They say, hey, we need your help. against equity. We want to enter the program. We evaluate the business models and we say yes or no. But in some cases, we didn't accept any ideas. We built it in-house. So we had our own ideas because we know the markets, because the founders have a very much a great expertise on the digital marketing segment. And so we built it in-house. We had a great idea, and we chose the entrepreneur. So we didn't have the entrepreneurs coming from the outside. We chose it as an entrepreneur in residence. So that's the next step of company building. So we have our projects, and we connected with the best team. Sometimes we had really good guys with an idea coming to us, applying for the program. We said no to the idea because the idea wasn't good, but we took the team, and we connected to one of the other projects that we had. And now it's a really good company, and it's expanding globally. So we connect the teams with the projects. We put it in our ecosystem with our funds. We're going to have our own VC fund later on, but now we have our own partner funds. Siamo Soci is one of our funds, actually created by us. And then they go and make money. The mantra is make revenues from day one. And we work with test budget. We don't really put any limitation on the budget, on the pre-seed budget. We sometimes start with 20K, sometimes we go to up to 120K from pre-seed side. The mantra is testing it, make some KPIs. If it doesn't work, we shut it down tomorrow. If it does work, then we go from there. There's really, if the objective is to minimize the hassle associated with the company creation, that's something that we take into consideration and we take upon us. We also have to minimize the not working side of the business. So you have to work from day one, and you have to generate KPIs that make sense from day one. And of course, going towards the company builder model, it's easier for us to shut down a project that doesn't work. Now, Bianca, this is a little bit of side information. We attract people from all over Italy. It's quite an international team, actually. We also have American people working in our startup studio. That's very surprising. And we now have 25 companies, and we started 5 years ago, and we really want to grow further. The idea is to have at least 50 companies within the next 2 years, portfolio companies. Out of which, let's say, 3/4 will be created through the acceleration program. That means ideas coming from the outside applying for our program, which is standardized, which has departments centralized. But then the another 1/4 will be coming from companies that we built in-house. So companies that we decided to invest on, that we associated with a team that we wanted, and then we went from there. Of course, becoming that kind of efficient in building companies, in standardizing company creation, we become a research and development center. So it is a privileged observatory. So that means that bigger companies can come to us and talk to us and also say, hey, I would like I know that you guys are experienced in building companies. We would like to see your portfolio. We would like to invest. We would like to give you money to invest further in companies that relate to my business model. This is also part of our future plan. So we really want to build an expertise, becoming really good at building companies whose business model relate to the segment that we have expertise in, so that companies in the future, bigger companies, can come to us and commission us with a company creation, or saying, I would like to give a look at your portfolio companies, I would like to invest, I would like to give you money for the next companies to run. Our companies, the business models of our companies are very scalable because, as I said, we have expertise in digital marketing and software and mobile app and e-commerces. Those are business models that are quite scalable. So obviously, we push the companies to sell abroad from day one. So if we break down the revenues of many of the startups that we have, most of them sell abroad well beyond Italy and well beyond Europe. So China, India, United States. So these companies were forced to become global from day one, because Italy is, of course, is a big market. But if we go for scalable business models, it would be stupid to limit them to sell to Italy only. So obviously they're trained to speak English and to go outside and to interact with people from the outside from day one, because it's necessary for us, for the company's valuation, and for them. A little bit of pictures. We have our co-working space. The companies that are usually accepted to the acceleration program, they pay less at the beginning, and they gradually go towards the full price. We want to expand that. We now have more or less around 200 seats, but we want to expand that to another 800 in the future. So we're going for new buildings to expand that. This is one of the founders is also an architect, so it's a very good taste and builds. So this is our portfolio. If you look at that, mobile app, e-commerce, advertising, web services, IoT. If you look at viralize, install, and list up, so e-commerce, advertising, those are companies that were built in-house through the company builder. So we had our own projects. We chose the entrepreneur in residence. These companies today, I cannot give you the exact numbers, but are the most successful companies in the portfolio. All the other companies are good, but the companies built through the company building model are the most successful companies. Why? Because we chose the entrepreneurs, we chose them, and we give expertise that is very much focused and very much connected to their own business model. And the departments that we have, the departments that we centralized inside the company building, are part of these company's operations every day. So they rely on our departments every day. So it's a machine. They're part of our machine. And so by being a machine for them, so they can be machines, we all make a bigger machine altogether. And so the next company will be easier to set up. And that's it. These are my bosses.